Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker here, bringing more teas to try, hopefully new teas to try. Teas, whether that's new by just total experience, new teas by new seasons, new harvests, new locations. Scooping out enough here, as we're talking about this new tea, dropping in enough here to cover the bottom, say inch and a half of my 3-ounce gaiwan here. Water's been brought to an early boil. I started to kind of roll and rumble. Not a full rolling 212-degree boil though. And I want a little bit of water to I want to make sure all my leaves kind of get swept underneath the surface of the water there. I want a little bit to rest above, splash more there, just enough to rest above the rim of my lid. Yes, just like that. And while that is steeping and gurgling a little bit there, bubbling, heat rising and shifting that around a little bit, talk about this tea and introduce it. This is from Grand Tea. This is their organic GABA Oolong. You can get 25 grams for $6 US. You can get a larger bamboo case. That's about 120 grams worth currently. So it's a nice package, maybe a nice gift. Now, why consider this particular tea as more gift worthy? GABA, if you want to read up on GABA, there's a lot of health associations with GABA. That's as far as GABA is a component that in the body has indications show that, I'm trying to cage this phrasing very carefully to say, some studies indicate GABA helps with relaxation. GABA, it helps with muscle tone, appetite regulation, so it can be good for different components, different aspects of body and lifestyle. This particular GABA, enhancing the GABA of a tea, the gamma-aminobutyric acid, which is a component in a tea, there's a certain process in which you can capture more of that GABA within the tea, and that's kind of what's happening here. GABA is not necessarily a particular kind of tea leaf. It is not necessarily a particular location. So it is a process, a way that tea leaves can be elevated, treated so that they have more of this GABA in them. So talking about this particular tea, I'm going to scoop out here and just kind of talk about the dry leaf, the wet leaf, and the liquor. Should start off here, though, with a bit of a sniff of the aroma here. There is in this particular Oolong, there's a bit of a roasty component. Roasted twig, tree branch kind of smell, shrub branches kind of smell, along with a tinge of caramel, a tinge of kind of a honey roasted peanut. So more on the roasty aspect of neighborhood of aromas. Scooping out a few of these leaves here and looking at those. For the most part, a lot darker, toastier brown colors, moving from green to green brown to a bit more of a light chocolate type of milk chocolate brown type of color. Rolled, balled, variations in size, I should say. So some of these look like they could be portions of leaves crinkled up, individual leaves or leaf pairs even, and because there are some larger balls or rolls here. This particular one I should also note before I forget, this particular GABA Oolong came from Huangshan in China, which is, I believe they're referring to it only said Huangshan on the product page. I'm assuming that is Huangshan in Anhui province of China. So that is, looking at that, also I should note, it does say certified or it's organic. That is not USDA organic. You would want to kind of review different certification standards to see how and what those actually mean. I think this one was a CAS was the terminology used, which would be a Chinese organic standard, I believe. So, having said that, looked at the dry leaf. Time to move on now to wet leaf. I'm going to pour the liquor then to get to the wet leaf. Middle finger and thumb are the main fingers holding the bowl there. My index finger holds the lid in place, shaking out those last few drops. That's good. Let me give this a bit of a shake here and now be able to get into aroma. The toasty aspect, again, still dry, heat, how should I say, dried, seasoned, and even a little bit heat-tempered wood, firewood. Think about that. That's just been kind of thrown in the fire, plucked back out. It's got some heat there to it. So there's a lot of that kind of an aspect. Now underneath that, as it's cooled a little bit, I get a bit more of a sweeter, gummy, resinous type, honeyed type sweetness there. And this is sweet, sappy kind of sweetness there. Beyond, it's sweeter, heavier, richer than raisin. This is more like amber or frankincense or something that's just a bit resinous aspect. There's that sweetness going on. So it's warm, it's rich, it's heavy and yet sweet. It's even maybe a tinge of like a camphor or sandalwood in there. So it's nice and rich in that sense. We'll pull out a few of these leaves and look, see if we have that, to see if we can find that kind of spectrum of different leaf sizes and shapes. Here's an example of a pretty large leaf. Actually fairly pliant, fairly tender, fairly thin for a leaf of this size. Lots of oxidation taking place along the rim, the edge of the leaf, the jagged edge. So you got a nice consistently thin band, and then beyond that there are blotches that move inward towards the center. So you have blotches, specks of oxidation moving inwards towards the middle of the vein, middle vein of the leaf there. You'll get some stem pieces. Here's a fairly large stem piece I found right there. You could see stem pieces in the dry leaf. They were a smaller percentage, maybe 10%. So you go from a leaf here, just to kind of compare a leaf that's say 2.5 inches in length to maybe a 1 inch length leaf there. And you notice those were relatively consistent in color, but then you do have leaf portions like this that are they're almost thoroughly brown, kind of, again, that somewhere in that rust red to milk chocolate brown type color going on there. Pears, look and see. Some leaves that have not fully unfurled. A couple of leaves that are actually kind of curled up together, haven't fully unfurled. So far, no sets yet, although I just put my fingers on, it looks like a leaf and bud pear set there. So I'm going to set that on the lid and move on then to the liquor. I'm going to give that a swirl, hold that up to the light. It's a nice, again, kind of coppery, amber, reddish brown color. Still those dried wood, stemmy type aspects are dominant. A bit of the sweet woods, the camphor, the honey roast aspect lightly coming out at this point. I'm going to give this a taste. It's got a bit of an astringent bite to it. It's got a bit of a light puckeriness to it. It's got so that makes the mouth feel a little sharper. It makes your tongue just kind of draws in a little bit, squeezes in based on that astringency, that briskness there. That woody aspect is really coming out now. If I took some oak or pine chips, soak that in water, and squeeze the water out of the wet, soggy pieces, there would be some of that kind of piney, slight astringent aspect there. And that's an element of what's going on here. Underneath that, you do get a little bit, in the aftertaste now, you get a bit of, a light, again, the honeyed aspect, a bit of the resinous, amber, frankincense, those kind of sweet resin type notes. You get a bit of the honey in there as well. So it does have a subtlety to it and a complexity to it. Now, GABA oolongs I've tasted from Taiwan in particular also have some of this kind of resinous type quality to the taste profile. Offhand, I would have to say this one's got a bit more complexity. There's a bit more layering going on, especially more in the aftertaste, so that if you sit and savor, you can draw out a little bit of that kind of sweet amber type note. You can draw out a bit of a honeyed type of note. So a little bit more to tease out, a little bit more to play with there. I'm going to try to catch this as it cools a little bit and see if there's anything that kind of changes about this particular one. As it cools, the astringency, that briskness kind of drops a little bit. It gets a bit smoother in the mouth. Gets a bit of a thicker texture in that sense as well. So play around with this tea. Find out that optimal temperature range. If you like a little bit of a punchy aspect, a bit of a almost tart-like, compared to more rounded, a little bit smoother, a little bit more softer mouthfeel. Although cooler does seem to, the aroma profile, the aromas kind of dropped a little bit as well. So dropping a little bit more in the aftertaste, still fairly well noticeable in the front though. So looking at this tea, given the fact that there's something in the front versus the back, the cool when it's warmer versus cooler, different aspects to kind of sit back and let them rise to the top and kind of reflect on them, notice them. A little bit more complexity in this tea. So in that sense, it's a nicer tea. I would give this one a 91. Some nice components to play around with, to explore, kind of get a good feel for. So come back to Walker Tea Review to find out if this is the right tea that's going to feel right for you. Look at the subscription areas so you can subscribe to the newsletter and get tea reviews like this delivered directly in your inbox. You can also subscribe to the member content articles. Articles I've done recently are about Taiwan tea competitions, what they are and how they're done. Interviews with different people, conversations, dialogues about Tieguanyin tea. What is it? What are the differences in, depending on locations, different varieties used, different processing methods used. And all those things are things that you can find at Walker Tea Review.